Hi.
Hi.
So, Miss Slate, what inspired you to base such a moving story around a shell?
Oh, that's such a nice question. Um, you know, the character of Marcel arrived in pieces. First, I was doing the voice. Then Dean Fleischer Camp, the director, created Marcel's body and how he looks. And once we started to just kind of play around with that, we became really fascinated with um, what it's like to be small in a big, gigantic world. And we realized that most people, in one way or another, kind of identify with that feeling of both a smallness paired with a largeness. And we just thought, wow, there's so much available to us here. The story here is going to be so interesting. And we just kind of went with it.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
It was amazing.
Hi, Miss Slate.
Oh, hi.
How did you get into the character of Marcel?
Well, sometimes you're lucky enough that a character kind of comes from inside of you. So in acting, I think a lot of us use what we have to step into other roles. But for me, Marcel is the first time I've ever played a character who kind of represents how I feel about myself inside of myself. And so it was a process more of looking inside rather than going out into something new, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. Thank
I'm
you.
glad. Thank you, hun.
Hi, Jenny.
Hi.
So Marcel obviously has been around for a while, has quite a fan base. What was the impetus for the Vimeo series kind of to begin with, which I know kind of ties into the last question a little bit about the creation of being a shell, but why a movie now after all these years?
Well, actually, for us, it just took this long to make the movie. We were making we made the first short film in 2010, and then after that, we made two books and we made two more shorts, and that kind of took up about 3 or so years. And then by that time, we were like, we want to do more. We just want to expand the story. And so we found partners to help us make this movie. And the movie itself took 7 years. So it's not really like we did this thing 10 years ago and we kind of put it to the side and we walked away. We've actually been with it this whole time. It just was a slow process.
Hi.
Hi.
So so coming out of like this, pandemic and isolation feeling, I was wondering, did you change anything or add anything? Because it really spoke to like that feeling. So when you like, I know you've been working on it for a while, but did you add anything because of the pandemic?
No, we didn't add anything because of the pandemic at all. And I understand that a lot of people feel sort of that it is rather odd that it pairs, it feels like such a response to what has happened. But I think the thing to remember is that the potential for feeling isolated, the potential for feeling like you've been separated and it wasn't what you wanted or asked for and that you couldn't control that it happened is actually something that people feel throughout their lifetimes, whether or not it's now or 100 years ago. And it also speaks to the human desire to be close and to be known and to be truly known, and to be able to lean on a community and find a shelter with others. And it just so happened that we all got separated from each other within these last few years. But Dean Fleischer Camp, the director of this film and the co-creator of Marcel, he and I were trying to just kind of investigate that situation anyway before. So it is just sort of strange timing.
Oh, it's beautiful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, Jenny. I
Hi.
was cracking up at the end when all the other non-shell beings showed up. My daughter was dying, especially with the tampon.
Yeah.
She's like, "Oh my God, Mom." And I'm like, "That's hilarious." So
Yeah.
can you share a little more about these characters and the decision to include non-shell beings in the story?
Yeah, I mean, well, everybody in a family or everyone in a community obviously does not look exactly the same. And it feels really like an opportunity for such fun. I was not the person that designed those creatures. There's a wonderful artist who worked with us on the film who designed all of those little characters. My favorites are the mouse pencil with like the little we like tacks, you know, and I love the Cheeto mama with her Cheeto babies. And number one favorite is, of course, the tampon. I just love that tampon so much. But yeah, I mean, I think this film is a asking us constantly to break down what people say is the norm and offer something slightly different while saying, we promise you'll know exactly what it is. We promise you'll know exactly what it is. Maybe not visually, you'll see something new visually, but like in your heart, you'll know exactly what it is.
I love it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, Jenny. Thank you very much for your time today, for being here with us.
Yeah.
In the movie, there's a moment where Marcel sings a song to Connie, and he sings Peaceful, Easy Feeling. I'm not going to hear that song the same way again after this movie.
Good.
But out of all the songs that, like, how did you decide on that song, and what other songs were probably considered for that moment? Because it's such a beautiful way to hear it now, I guess, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. Yeah, I love that song. And at the time, like at some point in 2017, I want to say, I was at I think the Seattle Film Festival with the movie Landline, and I couldn't sleep, and I was like in my hotel room. It was 2 a.m, and I was singing songs to myself, like covers in the voice of Marcel. And I had heard that song on the radio during the day while I was kind of getting like driven from the airport to the hotel. And I was thinking, this song is so like, it's so, at once it's funny for Marcel to sing it, and it's also touching. And so I recorded it in a voice memo, and I texted it to Dean in basically in the middle of the night. And he was like, oh man, we have to use this somewhere. And we didn't really know where, but you know, sitting in a backyard about a year after that or so, we recorded it again, just in the air, not in a studio or anything. And then decided the perfect place would be for that moment, for Connie's memory, you know, in her honor. And I like, you know, when there are things like that, you know what they are, like a funeral, you know what that is. And that it's paired with something surprising, because I think we're often told that in rituals, especially ones that have a certain gravitas or a seriousness to them or a finality to them or a ceremony, that like you can really only let in a few things, like only these prayers, only this type of clothing, you know, like this is how you do it. But the fact is that like a lot of times, of course, our relationships with the people that we lose, they hold every situation and every memory, and there's such a variety, and it feels good to add something unexpected in, even in that moment where there is a sense of, I like adding in a sense of surprise and openness as part of closure.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Hi, Jenny.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Considering what's been going on in the world lately, what do you think people can take away from Marcel about coming together as a community and making the world a better place?
You know, I hope they can take away that it's worth it. That if the people are around that you are feeling like you can connect to, that it's worth it to do it. You know, I know it's easy to lose heart and kind of just sort of try to stay to the side when you're exhausted. But I think there's always something to be gained in connection, whether it's just like with one other person or a group. And I hope that people remember like that hope doesn't have to mean perfection. That hope is actually attached to a process that is like moving through something, moving through change, and hoping to just like keep going, you know, that hope is actually a thing that we do so that we don't just stay in one place. I I just think it's worth it, and I hope people think that too.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, Jenny. I'm
Hi.
Kami from the mamadiaries.com.
Hi.
So you said, Marcel's been around for a while and has a huge fan base. So why is Marcel so special to you?
I think Marcel is special to me because he's very straightforward, but he's very sensitive. He has a really wide range of emotions. He's friendly, but he's also fearful sometimes. And I think he's precious to me because he's really funny, and I think he's precious because he's doing his best.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So the story is close to you in your personal life. So you mentioned some of his characteristics, but what are some of those characteristics that are kind of yourself shining through in Marcel?
Well, I think that I am a very hopeful person, but I'm also very fearful. And I really reject the idea that the fear would cancel out the hope. I think the fear is something to pay attention to. It shows us, what we really want. It shows us what we want to happen. If we're afraid, for example, that we'll be, turned down, it means like, oh, you want to be accepted. And I think that's really, really good. It's sort of an inside out way of clarifying what you want for yourself. But I think it's still available. It's still a thing, and, I also love to perform. I'm a performer and a friendly person. And I relate to the way that Marcel is just kind of like down to answer any question and wants to connect and doesn't overthink it. I think for better or worse, that's what I'm like. And, I really need a community around me. I really do. And I really, really am dedicated to trying to make each day really enjoyable for myself, even in tiny little ways. And I think Marcel's like that too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So after seeing the final film, what aspect of Marcel the Shell with Shoes On are you most proud of?
That's such a interesting question. I guess you mean what aspect of the film or what aspect of the character?
I guess the film, but both.
Yeah. What I'm really proud of about the film is that it didn't try to change Marcel in order to make it be a film. I think the film itself is visually really beautiful, and I think that Dean Fleischer Camp created a look and an aesthetic and a sound and a pacing that are directly derived from those original shorts. And I'm just really proud that we kept it consistent, because I don't think that's an easy thing to do. And I think that his patience really paid off. And I am proud that the film, in my eyes, is beautiful, and that in order to be beautiful, it has only had to stay true to its original form.
Yeah, I definitely agree that the film is very artistic on its own, but even better with the character.
For sure. I agree.
What real life problems are you hoping to help with this film?
What real life problems am I hoping to help with this film? One thing that I think about is that I think generally the stories that we see and the way that we convince each other to interact often say, just pick one quality of yourself to put out there. Just pick like one main thing and make sure it's the best thing. And that's the people that's the thing that people will like you the most for. And I think I've never wanted to choose between my personal qualities. I've always wanted to show all of them, especially the ones that are the hardest, like being sad or being afraid. And I hope that, the film helps with the very human and eternal problem of having to oversimplify yourself in order to fit in. I hope that it becomes easier for every single person who watches the movie to embrace how spectacular they are in so many different ways. I hope it just creates a little bit of ease. I hope it helps with that.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Jenny. So
Hi.
I know that with the distribution of the film and the fans of Marcel from previously, I'm hoping that maybe we'll see some new stories. I know one of the books you had previously, I think, is out of print.
Oh.
Is that something that we might be able to see more of in the future?
I do think
More
they're
books
reprinting
and
yeah, I think they're reprinting the books. I don't know if we'll make more books, but I know that I would love to continue to do Marcel the Shell film projects or TV projects. And I think it always relies on just finding the right partner, someone that is like going to let us do our thing. And I think this movie proves that we know what we're doing. But yeah, it really depends on that because I'm certainly down to do it. But I think Dean and I would really have to find someone who lets us do our work.
sure. Well, they're fantastic. So I hope that we get to see more in the future.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi again.
So,
My grandpa just passed away, so watching like
Oh.
Connie, just like it felt like the warmest hug, and you could see how much Marcel just adores his Nana. And so, did you incorporate anything from your own grandma's into that character? It just felt like a beautiful relationship.
Well, I'm sorry to hear about your grandfather, first of all. My own grandmother is named Nana Connie. I put her in my Netflix comedy special, Stage Fright, which you can watch and see her in the flesh. Yeah, the character of Nana Connie is a real combination of my two grandmothers, Dean Fleischer Camp's grandmother, whose name was Dina, and Nick Paley, one of our co-writers, one of his grandmothers as well. And yeah, my grandmother, my dad's mom, Rochelle, is an immigrant. She was born in Cuba and grew up in Paris, and then was in hiding during the Holocaust and is a Holocaust survivor. And she has an accent, and that's why Nana Connie in our film has an accent. We say it's because she is originally from the garage, which you can imagine is like another country, and that she traveled here by coat pocket when she was really little. But yeah, I think we put a combination of the qualities of our grandmothers into Nana Connie. And I know for me, I mean, my grandmothers were essential to my happiness growing up. They were a constant source of unconditional love, and I had deep respect for them as people. And I was so intrigued by like their personal style and their choices and their stories. And I felt that they were the people who directly helped me kind of connect to a past that I was really inquisitive about. And yeah, I'm really affected by having my grandmothers with me for my life. And so it was really important to put them in the movie because they're people who taught me how to be loving and how to be confident.
Thank you. Yeah, you
Thank
could
you.
really see it. You could see it a lot.
I'm glad.
I thought it was great that you got Leslie Stahl to show up and interview Marcel, considering that was one of his and Grandma Connie's favorite shows. What was that like bringing her on?
Well, I think we were all very grateful to have Leslie and also, incredibly intimidated. She really is like she's a powerhouse. And she came onto our set with a full 60 Minutes crew that we asked her to bring so that it could be like the most, true to life representation of what it would be like to be interviewed on 60 Minutes. So she brought all of them and, she arrived ready to go. And it was really, really, really fun. It was, being Marcel in a totally new setting.
It was great. I loved it. It was a great surprise.
Thank you.
Hi again, Jenny. So from going from the shorts to the full-length movie, What did you, was this the story that you originally had planned to make for a full movie, or did you start off from something different and it evolved into the story of him finding his community?
Yeah, I think this is the story that we planned, but it used to be a lot more just longer. Like there were just more parts to it, and more tangents, and you got to see more of Marcel's life, before his family got taken away, and yeah, it was just like sort of reduced and reduced and streamlined and streamlined and streamlined over the years. But this is where we were trying to go.
Thank you.
But we
And then,
did make adjustments. Yeah.
okay, thank you. And also, thanks for the shout out of Guatemala in the movie.
Yeah.
So I loved Isabella as Nana Donna. How did she get on board, and what did it mean for her to be in the project?
So we wrote the character of Nana Connie knowing that she had an accent, knowing that we wanted like an actress with like a very distinctive voice. And when we offered it to Isabella, I think she said that she didn't know what Marcel was, but that her children told her that she had to do it because they were fans of Marcel. And so she said yes. And she really appeared to be fascinated by the process of improvising and locking an audio play before you animate anything. She was really courageous. She kept saying like that she wasn't really used to improvising, and she's used to like getting a script and just doing it that way. And you really wouldn't have been able to tell. Like she just was so game to get in there and improvise. And she was very kind. She let us record at her farm. All the scenes where Nana Connie is in her garden, we recorded at Isabella's farm.
So you've done a lot of voice acting, and Marcel's voice, it's so unique and it's adorable. Is there any sort of technique that you use to create these different voices?
I mean, it's different from project to project. Sometimes people will say like, this character is like really fancy. Can you do like a fancy voice? And you work with the director to find that. But for the most part, like for the Marcel voice, I just kind of have to stick my finger in my ear because it's so quiet that I can't amplify it very much. Yeah.
So the movie showcases a side of the internet and social media community that not many people highlight: the negative outcomes of memes and trending and viral stories, and the type of people that it can attract. So what was it that made you guys kind of go this route for Marcel's journey?
Well, we tried to follow the truth. I think that is like what a big part of this is. We try to find the truth. And the fact is, like, Marcel did get put on the internet in this way and blow up, and we wanted to see like what that might feel like for him. And whereas I've never felt like, oh no, like too many people are watching me. I don't one way or another, I don't think I've like really achieved that level of being like overexposed. I think that's a good thing. But I do think that in my own way, I became really concerned with or preoccupied with behavior that happens on the internet, and with the fact that like you can want so much from something that doesn't really have a mandate to give you that thing, or doesn't really feel an obligation to do that or a responsibility. Like in every way that it's wonderful that it's a group of people, it's also can be shocking and let you down that it's that same group of people. It is a real free-for-all out there. And I think, Marcel looking at it and being like, there's just so much nothing, is a feeling that a lot of people feel. And I think on the other end of that is like, there's so much nothing, there's so much nothing. I hope they give me something. I hope they give me something, and it keeps you going. But I know that I started to feel like this just doesn't do it for me. It's not giving me anything. I'm not getting it. I'm living off of scraps in terms of what this interaction is. at least for myself, I didn't like my own behavior. And so I took some time to really think about, you know, when you're on the internet or when you're on social media, like, just think about what you're doing. You know, like a lot of people just sort of mindlessly interact. And I think we wanted to show that it actually does matter what you do, and it matters to other people. And there are outcomes that really touch people. And sometimes that's great. And sometimes it's difficult.
I think that's such an important lesson to learn, and I'm glad people can take that away from this movie. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.